You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Erin Walker and Heather Dyer. Tune in weekly to get inspired and make good food. I planted my garlic because you plant it in the fall and it sits in there all year long and then hopefully will sprout in the spring. Last year, it didn't go that well.
Mine didn't sprout at all.
All right. Well, here we are talking about our gardens.
I'm like, are we recording?
We're on go here.
Is this pertinent to the episode?
This is very important to the episode.
I didn't know.
Welcome, Heather, to the podcast. We are recording, and welcome everybody else.
And welcome, Erin. Thank you for welcoming us to Three Kitchens Podcast.
So we're talking planting garlic. Last year, my garlic didn't go so well.
Mine didn't come up at all, and I was thinking because I've planted it in the same spot for a few years. So I'm going to move to the other end of the garden this time and just see if that helps, because I have no other ideas.
No, I was talking to an auntie and she was saying, oh no, I plant my garlic in the same spot every year. And she gets bulbs that are like the size of my hand. And she even shared a couple to me, which was so sweet. We're still figuring it out. But it is very important to have garlic in our garden.
Okay.
And to have garlic in our lives.
In our bloodstream?
Our bloodstream, hanging around the house.
Oh, okay.
It's spooky time here, Heather.
It is. It's spooky Halloween.
It's spooky time. And this is coming out on Halloween. So happy Halloween, North American friendies.
Yes. And anyone else in the world who maybe carried this little tradition along. Because I think if I were to relocate somewhere, I might still like to.
I might want to do it. So Halloween in Canada, we dress up in costumes of any sort. They can be spooky or they can be not spooky. Mm-hmm. And we go door to door. We say trick or treat. And we expect free candy.
You know,
I think it's a pretty awesome tradition.
Okay, now that you're like saying it out loud like this, I'm like, if you weren't familiar, you'd think, what?
And we also carve a pumpkin.
A face into it, usually,
unless you're really super creative and crafty. Some people get really fancy on their pumpkins and put a candle in it so it glows on your front doorstep. And that usually means, yes, please come knock on my door.
Yes, that's right. If the lights are out and there's no pumpkin,
do not knock on that door.
You're wasting
your time.
Or they've left.
Go to the next house.
Yeah.
Don't even bother with that.
And should we just mention that it's typically children who are going and saying trick or treat and getting candy? I mean, we don't go as groups of adults.
No,
I wouldn't turn them away. If you came to my house, I would probably just give you candy and say happy Halloween and send you on your way. But typically it's children.
It is. And there has been sort of this, I've heard this discussion coming up in our news recently too, where people are getting grouchy about the age of trick-or-treaters at their house and that it's a bunch of these grown-up kids. You know what? If you are any age and you're choosing to go hang out with your friends and go door to door and dress up, I'm all for it.
Yeah. As long as you're polite.
Be nice. Come to my house. I will give you free candy. For sure.
Just so I don't eat it myself. Because that's what happens is that if you have too much, then you eat it yourself. And that's why I haven't bought it yet. Well, we're recording like a week in advance. And I haven't bought any yet because
you don't buy candy until the day of Halloween.
Yeah.
Because we all know anyone who's like, oh, I'm going to buy it ahead of time, so I'm prepared. That's a lie. You're just going to eat it. That's not Halloween
also,
candy. That's feed myself Halloween sized candy.
You can just buy the stuff you don't like. If there's something you don't like, because then you're less likely to eat it yourself.
Unless you like all the candy.
Do you like all the candy?
I do like all the candy. And if I don't, I'll be like, oh, this is terrible until I like it.
This is terrible. Give me more.
Yeah, exactly. We like to talk about spooky things.
Hey, do we want to talk about our little lunch adventure? Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, we went for a little pre-Halloween lunch. The food and everything is not Halloween themed, but what made it suitable this time of year is that we went to a place called the Dean House in Calgary that is apparently one of the most haunted homes, buildings. I'm not exactly sure the classification. It's a haunted place.
Yes.
Now, our kind server told us that he said one of the most haunted places in the world. I don't know that I'd go that far, to be honest. We don't have the history here, I don't think, for it to be quite that.
I don't think so.
But certainly in the city and maybe even in the country, I don't know. Tell us the story.
Okay, so I did get a chance to look up the story about the Dean House. And so it was built in 1906. And so in the 1960s, there was a couple living there with young children. And I believe either late 60s or early 70s, there was an order out against him for attacking or assaulting her. And he came back to the house while their children were asleep upstairs and murdered his wife and killed himself.
Oh, dear.
It's a terrible story. And so from that time on, this house has been haunted, and there are rumors of the smell of pipe smoke lingering in the house. There's stories of a disconnected phone that rings, and actually our server did say that this is something his managers had reported, and that upstairs chairs will move, and that there's a closet that will constantly unlock itself and its contents will come out.
Yeah.
And things like that. So we did poke around a bit, but we didn't see anything too spooky.
Well, and he said that usually the activity is at night, and we were there for lunch. And I think it's probably more after hours. I mean, it's a restaurant now. It's not like people are there late at night typically. So that's unfortunate. But there was another story that we came across recently that we were having a little laugh about.
This one's kind of a good one to chuckle about.
Yeah. So not far from the Dean House, there is a pub in a old fire station. So it was a fire station from 1906 to 1952, station number 3. And the city's first fire chief, who they called Cappy Smart, he worked at that fire hall sometimes. Apparently he liked exotic pets. One of them was a monkey. This monkey apparently attacked and bit a child, and so they put it down. But the ghost hangs around at the Hose and Hound pub, which is the former fire station, and gets up to mischief in the kitchen. Apparently turns on the dishwasher, shakes pots and pans around while people are cooking. It's not just happening when there's nobody around. The broom moves, so you go to get the broom and it's not there, it's moved somewhere else. And some people also say they hear horse hooves at the old fire station, because of course at that time they would have had a horse-drawn water wagon or whatever they called it at the time.
Oh wow.
Fire trucks yet. So yeah, we like this idea that there's this monkey creating some mischief.
I like the idea of this mischievous, ghostly monkey.
If you were to see it,
a
ghostly monkey jumping around, like I just picture it being like.
It's kind of fun to get into the spirit of Halloween and visit some of these spooky places. If you're local in Calgary, I think there are a few different like ghost tours and
walks
through the Inglewood community, which is where the Dean House is located. And so you'll probably get some better information there than you've received from us. We're going to have something warm and comforting, and it's going to ward off them evil spirits.
Yeah, that's just like an extra bonus to the warm and comforting, delicious food.
And one of the ways you can do that is eating lots of garlic. It can ward off the curse of an evil eye. So if you think someone has given the power of bad luck to you, garlic. Also, another thing that can help keep those bad creatures away, like witches, you can cook pork. Because apparently cooking pork, the smell of it, if it makes you uncomfortable, you might be a witch. The scent can drive away evil spirits.
I think there's lots of good witches. What kind of witch are we talking about here? Are we talking about like,
let's say the evil ones.
The evil kind. Okay.
We're going after all the evil stuff. So as I continued down this thing, I also came across this idea of bringing good luck and good fortune to you is by eating black-eyed peas as well. They are a symbol of good luck and fortune. And so put all those things together, we are going to have the superpowers of warding off evil with our garlic, our pork, and our black-eyed peas because I'm
Oh,
making
nice.
black-eyed peas with bacon and pork.
Bacon and pork. That's an interesting.
Bacon and pork, which is an interesting way of naming it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be garlicky and porky.
Nice. I think that sounds good.
If you're like me and you just keep clicking on things,
don't we all? Yes.
It's what we've been trained to do.
Yeah.
I also found that in Japan, scattering beans around your house is something that is done to protect and bring good fortune.
Like all the time or just at...
Not all the time. I believe
Okay.
it is a New Year's thing. And I have been endlessly curious about a Japanese dish that is a sweet dish made with a sweet red bean paste and those little pancakes.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Dorayaki.
I don't know.
And it is a honey pancake sandwich filled with a sweet red bean paste.
Mm.
Then after all my clicking and wandering through the internet, I was wandering through the bulk barn, and guess what I found? The adzuki beans that are needed to make
that's what they're called.
The sweet red bean paste. So
I assume they were dry beans.
They are dry. You have to soak them and cook them and then mash them and blend them. You can make it chunky or you can make it totally smooth. It's up to you. There's a couple different ways to do it. You make this red bean paste and then you put it between these pancakes and it makes this great little sandwich. I keep coming across this, and if we're going with a Beany Halloween-y,
you need more beans.
I need more beans. So we're doing a savory bean dish and a sweet bean dish.
Yeah.
Sweet bean dessert.
Dessert, snack, breakfast.
Yum.
I think it could be any of the above. And what I like about the idea, I've never seen this, but what I like about the idea of it, having eaten the bun that is stuffed with the bean paste, I like that you could make it almost more like a sandwich because it would be easier to assemble.
Yeah, we're gonna have some beans and pork and garlic and beans and pancakes.
Two totally different type of bean things. Hey Erin, do we ever tell people that we have a website?
I think so. It's in our show notes.
We have a website and we post the recipes from our episodes, and we also have recipes on there that have not made it onto an episode. It's just stuff that we've cooked, tested out, and that we love.
Like what you did with that lamb short rib. That was delicious.
That's right. I make donuts with pancake mix. I have that kid who doesn't like to eat pancakes, but he'll eat one in a donut pan.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a way to do something a little bit different, we've got multiple options for you to explore.
And of course, all of our episodes, including the speakeasy bonus episodes and the drink recipes, that's all on there. So visit us over at threekitchenspodcast.com.
Well, should we talk about the warm and wonderful black-eyed peas that I made?
Yes. I just had some for breakfast earlier, my first breakfast earlier.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes when it's like, this doesn't seem like breakfast food. I don't know if I want this particular thing for breakfast. I was like, not really feeling it. But I'm here to tell you all, it's a very good breakfast.
It's a great breakfast. You know, my kid gets home from doing sports and he's hungry and he's been opening up a can of beans and then dicing up a hot dog and popping it in there, and good old wieners and beaners.
I do not like that combo.
I dislike it greatly.
Yeah.
However, when I made this, I realized this is like the zhuzhed up, super yummy, homemade version of that, and it's great.
And it doesn't have all the nasty things that are in.
And
Okay,
you don't have
to be
hot
fair,
dogs.
not every hot dog is a bad hot dog. You can get some pretty nice hot dogs from a farm where they make nice hot dogs. Just saying, you know, not every hot dog is terrible.
That's right. And you know what? This took a little bit of time because you have to think ahead on this one, because you're going to want to soak your beans, or I keep calling them beans. I got to call them peas. When I say beans, stop me. You have to soak your peas overnight. And these guys really take up the water. And I wish I would have done a time lapse of it because I put them in my big measuring cup. It was a pound of these black-eyed peas and filled it up with water and thought that would be enough. And within half an hour, they had absorbed everything and like were almost overflowing. So I had to put them in a bigger bowl and add more water to them because it was amazing how fast they started to suck it up.
How did you know you needed more water?
Because they should soak overnight in the water. And if all my water has been absorbed, they're not soaking anymore, is my...
all right.
In a big bowl, something that's got lots of room for expansion, you want to put in your pound of black-eyed peas and just leave it overnight. Let it soak. I just left on the countertop. Next day into a large pot. So I did this all in a soup pot. Put it in your vegetable oil, start heating it up. And then I had pork stewing meat. And I can't remember what the exact cut was on this, but it was a package that said pork stewing meat. And I thought, perfect.
Oh, okay. If you had a roast, you could just chop it up into...
If you had a shoulder roast, you could totally dice it into pieces.
I don't know that I've ever noticed pork stewing meat packaged that way at the store.
Yeah, I happened to just come across this when I was making this, and it was really good for this. So you're going to dice that up and pop it into your hot oiled pot and fry it up so it's browned on all sides. And then you're going to add in thick cut bacon that you cut up and dice into little squares before you throw it into the pot. And you're going to cook those two things up. And then you're going to add in a diced medium onion and 4 cloves of garlic that you've got diced up. And just cook that all. Oh boy, does that smell good. The pork, the onions, the bacon, all of it. Cook it in that hot oil.
Do you find it odd sometimes that we call bacon instead of, like we say pork and bacon?
This is a tough one.
Is that an odd thing?
Well, pork is the raw meat. Bacon's already been cured.
Oh, okay.
Or that's the way I like to think about it. But if you're going to start talking about Canadian bacon versus back bacon...
I don't even know what.
I don't know. That's where it really muddies for me.
Okay, anyone? I don't even know what Canadian bacon. Isn't Canadian bacon just ham?
I think it's just sliced ham. Yeah.
Why do they call it Canadian bacon?
I don't.
Listen, you guys, we're Canadians, and we don't even know what Canadian bacon is. So
we're here to not represent ourselves very well as Canadians.
Everyone in the world, just stop calling it Canadian bacon because it's just. That's so weird. No,
I'm pretty sure it's just sliced ham.
That's weird. Okay.
All right. So you've got your meat and your onion, garlic all browned in the pan, in your pot, sorry. You're going to add salt, black pepper, cayenne, and garlic powder. And you're going to cook this entire mixture until it's coated with all the spices. And then you'll add in 4 cups of chicken stock and 2 cups of water and bay leaves. You're going to bring it to a boil. And once you've brought it to a boil, you're going to reduce it and let it simmer for about half an hour. And so this is kind of the point where your meat is going to feel tough. It's going to seem like, oh, I'm going to be chewing leather was my fear. Like, oh no. But as that meat cooks and starts to break down, after about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, your pork is going to start softening. And that's when you can drain your peas from that overnight bath you've left them in, give them a rinse, and then toss them in with everything, bring it to boil, reduce it to simmer, and then let it sit for an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay.
Just to get those peas, they're going to absorb a whole bunch more water, even though you've already soaked them and they've absorbed water, they're going to get softer, and you just want to kind of cook it until you can pick out a pea, press it down, and it squishes easily. You don't want it to be crunchy still. You have to be patient. And you don't want to be too mushy. You still want to have that pop when you bite into it, which I feel like these black-eyed peas really have. And then serve it up. You can add some hot pepper vinegar, which is like Frank's Red Hot sauce, or Cholula sauce is my favorite, or any of your Tabasco sauce. Whatever you like to add on there to spice it up. And we ate this with grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner.
Oh, that's a great combo.
It was fantastic.
I would have thought that pork cooked like all day long. It was so tender and soft, like melt in your mouth.
And flavorful. Like it had all the spices like right in there. It's amazing.
At first I had forgot. This is what happens sometimes because listener, you get to hear it all at once. But we often have time in between the first recording, the first half. There's cooking and eating in between, and then we record the second half, and sometimes quite a bit of time goes by in between. And I also just have a real terrible memory. But I couldn't really remember what it was at first. When I opened the container that you gave me, I was like, oh, did this have beef in it? I can't remember because it looks like tender, braised. Oh, it wasn't cubes. It wasn't like
it
chunks.
Fell apart because of the cubes it was in. And you could see the meat, like it was so fatty and marbled when I was first cooking it. And like when you first cook it up, it stays in that cube. But man, as it falls apart, it just crumbles.
You had given it to me. You gave it to me yesterday. And like I said, I had it earlier today. I didn't finish it because I saved some for later. Ooh. But I tried it earlier today in case we were going to record. And when I took the little glass bowl out of the fridge and I looked at it, there's like a fat layer that's settled. And I was like, ooh, this is going to be good. Because you can just see that it's going to be like that rich, when you warm it up and stir it in, it's going to have that rich, good fatty texture and flavor to it. I would never have thought that was just, you don't really think of it as, pork stewing meat. That just sounds like blech. But this was like, wow.
It was a good, I'm really happy with this. Everyone in the family really loved it. I think my kid who eats his wieners and beaners has been bumped up a bracket now. So I don't know how I'm going to deal with that.
Yeah, because he's going to be asking for this after every hockey game. I'd never eaten black-eyed peas before.
No.
I really like them.
I thought they were really good. They had that pop and then soft.
Yeah. The texture is great.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah, loved it.
Well, I think there was enough pork and garlic to scare away and fend off all the evil spirits.
Oh, for sure.
And lots of black-eyed peas to bring us good luck.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, thank you for that.
There you go.
I appreciate it. I could use some.
Let me know how that works out. All right. And then I made these dorayaki Japanese red bean pancakes because we just needed more beans in our life.
Well, we really have to counteract all that evil that's in the world right now.
Yeah, it feels like we need as much good luck as possible.
Yeah, we could all use more beans.
So, as I mentioned in the first half, I did find these azuki beans dried. And so this recipe, they did not recommend pre-soaking them. It was just cooked on the stove. There must be something that initially comes off the beans when you start cooking them. The instructions said that once they come to a boil, you want to drain them, fill them up again, and then boil them for the hour and a half. So there must be something that comes off the beans that you want to drain. Initially, drain everything out, rinse it, add your water, bring it to boil a second time, and then they sit there.
Okay.
Once you've got them softened up, I drained them and just let them cool because it's a little bit easier to work with things once they've cooled down when you're using the Ninja blender because it's sealed and they say don't blend hot things in there, and I get it.
Well, I have done that many times. Yeah. And what happens is it sort of suctions and then you try to open it and it's like, and it like spits at you.
Yeah. Then you get hot stuff flying in your face.
Yeah. Makes a mess.
It's a little bit of danger. So when you drain the beans, you want to keep some of the cooking liquid just to add back in as you blend it up until the beans form a nice blended paste. Then you're going to put them back into the pot you boiled them in. Now that it's empty of everything else, you're going to add, it says 3/4 to 1 cup of sugar. So you can kind of adjust this as you like. I believe I did the full 1 cup of sugar when I made it, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And cook that until it gets thick enough that when you drag your spatula over the bottom, it stays separated. Turn it off, let it cool. Your bean paste is done. It was really quite simple to make. Then, and I did this the next day because the first day I had made the bean paste, I had made the beans, and I was like, done.
Yeah.
So the next day I made the pancakes that this red bean paste is going to get sandwiched in between. So it was eggs, sugar, and honey that were whisked together. And then you add flour, baking powder, whisk it again until everything's well combined. Put it in the fridge, it said for 15 minutes to let it rest. And then bring it out, add in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water so that it has the same consistency as a pancake batter. And then you're going to heat up your frying pan. You put oil in it and then wipe it really good with a paper towel so that it distributes the oil without any patches or splotches, or you won't get that even browning on your pancake.
So you're oiling the pan, but you're not really cooking them in oil.
Yeah, you oil the pan, heat it up, and then wipe the oil out with a paper towel. And then I use that paper towel to oil my spatula and then keep oiling the pan in between batches. And that worked really well. Scoop your batter in. I always use my ice cream scoop for this that has the little click, click, scoop clear guy. A 4 tablespoon scoop. Okay. That's about what I've got. Cook it in your pan over medium-low heat. You don't want it to get too dried out, but you don't want it to cook too fast and then the middle's raw. Flip it over, cook it on the other side, take it out, let it cool. And this is where I kind of went with it on my own. It said to put the bean paste in the middle and sandwich it between 2 pancakes. But my pancakes were pretty thick and fluffy. When I did that, it was like a really big sandwich. And I thought, I think that's just too much bread or too much pancake for the ratio of filling that I'm putting in. So I scraped it out of the few pancakes that I had stuffed as I looked at them. And I just chose to slice each pancake in half instead. And then put the filling in there. And then, because they sliced really easily. That way I got way more. So the recipe was for 6. I should have gotten 6 of these dorayakis total, but because I did it this way, I got 12. And it used up almost all of the bean paste that I made as well. So I felt like those ratios worked out better for me. And just eat.
Eat it for your second breakfast if your name is Heather. I was eating it when we logged on.
I was about to say, ooh, what do you have? And then I was like, oh, I recognize that.
I have a delicious red bean pancake sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is yummy. I mean, I already knew I liked red bean paste because as I told you, I had it in those Chinese buns before.
Right.
And I thought the sweetness was like perfect because it's not, you don't want it overly sweet, but you also, it needs the sugar. I don't know what the beans taste like without sugar, but I imagine they're kind of blah.
Plain and bean-like.
Yeah.
I can give you that that point of view. I did try the beans as I was squishing them to see when they were cooked, and they tasted like any plain old bean.
Yeah, they need a little something, something. So the sugar makes it more like a jam.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a fun little treat. And they look, because they're actually quite brown on the outside, like you said, they almost on the top, it almost reminds me of that smooth brown like hamburger bun. You know, when you get like a fast food hamburger bun, it has that weird, it's like, how did they make bread look like that? You know, like when it's a bun, it's like, well, that's weird. But in the case of a pancake, it's like, wow, how did she manage to get it so evenly browned?
I think it's the oil in the pan. Because the recipe was very like wipe out all the oil so that you don't get any dabs of it left behind, or else you'll get spots on your pancake.
And I would think bubbles.
Yeah, so this is a little bit different. But yeah, I thought I liked the pancake quite a bit. I thought it was good. The family didn't like the bean paste. My husband thought it tasted like, at first he was like, oh, does this have dates in it?
Oh, I can see that.
And I was like, no, it has a bean paste. And he was like, oh, you should not have told me that.
Oh, poo. He liked it before he knew what it was?
I have to say, it wasn't really my favorite either.
Really?
So I went back to thinking about the ube.
I was just going to say, but you like ube.
Yeah, so I liked the flavors in the ube, but I didn't like this so much. So you didn't
Which
like...
is so funny because I did not like that ube jam, but I like red bean paste.
So here's where the great divide is now.
We're complex human beings. Oh, that's funny.
I really like the pancake, but the red bean paste, I could live without.
I had one kid who really liked the whole thing. The other one who was like, I told him it was a bean paste, and he was like, no, I'm not even trying that. So perhaps I shouldn't have told him, but he likes to know what it is he's trying before he tries it. And so the one that I was munching on earlier is the last of 4, and I've eaten 3. and one kid ate one. I like it and I'm eating it. Yummy. Great idea to cut them in half.
Yeah, I liked that better. I don't know. I'm not sold on this one yet.
That's okay.
At least
We
not
don't
everybody
like
was.
everything we make. Right?
No, we don't.
Oh.
But it was fun to try something different and new.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you never know, because it's one of those things where it had such a different taste and flavor that I could find myself craving it in 6 months from now and being like, I have this strange craving for something that's like a red bean paste.
And then you gotta check if you're pregnant or something. You have these weird cravings.
Oh God, no. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, Beany Halloween-y.
That's right. Happy Beany Halloween.
And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
But one more arrow bar can't hurt.
Yeah.
I have no self-control.